Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6:31 and calling the Universal City Council meeting to order and call for Quorum Check.
Mayor Fitzpatrick. Here. Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Putt. Here. Councilmember Rubal. Here. Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Super. Invocation tonight is going to be given to Councilmember Vaughan. Now, send the pledge.
Dear God, thank you for the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We pray that we can live in a way that honors you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to be Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Welcome everyone tonight. We have a rather long meeting tonight, so we may be taking one or two restroom breaks as we go along. If anyone in the audience does feel the need they need to go to, feel free to walk right on out, and we'll continue on without you, but up here we'll have to break if somebody up here needs a break. First on the agenda is citizens to be heard. No one has signed up for citizens to be heard.
Mayor, I signed
Oh, my apologies. You're on one of the public hearings. Did you want to? My apologies.
Wrong sheet.
Okay, my apologies. Right on up, I'll transfer you right over. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just here this evening to give you some unsolicited advice regarding the budget. And rather than talk from the podium, if I may, I'll just hand out the sheet and sit down. Is that all right?
Man, a few words.
But I like listening to you talk.
You still have 2 minutes left. You sure you don't want to highlight these? You sure you don't want to highlight these since you've got 2 minutes
I'm
left?
going to leave it as it is and let it fall where it may.
Thank you. Citizens to be heard. Thank you very much. First up is staff reports and the city manager's report. And actually, our first one on the presentation is the SARA rate presentation, and we have Ms. Katie Overstreet, our representative, to tell us about the SARA project.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Katie Overstreet. I am the current utilities manager for the San Antonio River Authority, oversee our utilities operation and our SARA wastewater treatment. So this is our slide that was presented to you all, as well as our other wholesale partners in the solid trio system, Universal City being obviously here, and then Converse and Live Oak as well. So we worked hard on the budget development this year. We've been really diving into our rate model. It's been a living, breathing document for a long time, and we've spent a lot of time working with other partners across the state to make sure that we're doing the best. We've gone through a financial audit in the last couple of years to ensure that we're doing the best that we can to serve our customers as well as our partners. So we actually did a little bit of change this year. Your staff has been diligently sending us billing reports, and we have deviated a little bit this year and calculated winter averages on our own, and then provided that information to staff to review and ensure that matches your record and get that cooperation between our two entities. And I think we had a really great working relationship with Universal City. I can't speak highly enough of the staff and their due diligence. So we had a little bit of back and forth, and they caught an error in our spreadsheet, which we were happy to rectify. And so we've been doing a lot of due diligence, I believe. And so next slide, please. And I think that shows. So we brought a couple years of pretty high rate increases to you all and the rest of our partners, and I think we're happy to show that we're really trying to boil those down and get those down definitely into single digits, unlike those double-digit rate increases we saw a few years ago, and start getting those into more reasonable rate increases that are just really keeping up with the cost of doing business rather than trying to catch up for funds that we hadn't previously captured. So this year, this is just a system-wide average. If you'll remember from the previous presentations we come and do every year, there are two components of the wastewater rate: the fixed rate that is built out of the capital improvements, and then the variable rate, which is dependent on user consumption. And so what is shown here is based on a 5,000 gallon per month consumption. And that's just a industry standard average, so this differs for each customer and differs for the users depending on the winter average. And that winter average is supposed to be what is committed in wastewater. So when you're not irrigating over those winter months, it's supposed to be a more accurate representation of what wastewater is introduced into the system. And so this year we're looking at a system-wide average increase of 5.18%. But if we go to the next slide, you can see what that really looks like. This slide is actually just showing that we do have connection fee requirements, but those are staying constant, so there should be no change to that. And so developers shouldn't be trying to change up before the pricing changes. There will be no increase in fiscal year 26. You will see a little bit of increase in the all other users rate. That is the difference between single family is what was shown on the previous slide. So this is all other users, your industrial, commercial users. Their variable rate is going from $6.14 per 1,000 gallons to $6.28 per 1,000 gallons. The next slide, please. So what does this mean for Universal City? You saw a decrease in your winter average from fiscal year 25 from 5,000 gallons even to 4,872, which means that the majority of your single family users were using less water over that winter averaging period. And so your percent change when you calculate the fixed rate and the variable rate is only going up by 4.1% year over year, which is $1.32 for that single family user based on that winter average rate. But that's based on the winter average rate. If your customer has an individual winter average rate, this will all look different a little bit, but this is the system-wide winter average rate that the city uses and calculated rates to deliver. Next slide, please. We always like to show a comparison of where we rank against other folks, and this gets a little bit hard to read. I think we've put this chart together for many, many years, and for a long time we were only comparing ourselves against really localized utilities and comparing ourselves against SAWS, who has a massive revenue basis and always apples to apples comparisons. So this one shows other entities that are facing some rapid growth, like the San Antonio metro area is facing, especially here in Eastern Bear County. But you will see that the Universal City rate there is kind of in that mid to lower tier rate, the SARA rate, highlighted there in yellow. Our yellow is the wholesale partners, red is our retail rate that those customers charge directly to SARA. Next slide, please. And I can really fast speed through this, but we always like to show you what goes into that fixed cost, which are the capital improvement projects. Most of these are focused at the Solid Trio wastewater treatment plant that treats the sewage from the Universal City customers. And so we did a really big expansion, and that was what a lot of those capital costs went into. And while that expansion is complete and online, we did have some improvements that weren't able to fit into the budget for that project. And so those are some improvements that you see. We also want to continue planning and being proactive for improvements there. Wastewater is a fairly corrosive environment, so while we don't expect any future expansions, there will always be improvement projects as equipment fails. And then we will also continuously plan for flood resiliency and climate impacts to our operations so that we can always be serving the customers. A big thing for outside of the wastewater treatment plant is the collection system line that conveys the wastewater from the customers to us. And so we work in hand with your staff on I&I improvements and improvements to the collection system to ensure that flow gets from point A to point B and doesn't make any unsightly appearances before it gets to the We've also been doing a lot of flow monitoring, and we do find that we have what we call I&I impacts, and that is when rainwater makes its way into the sewer system. And so this kind of shows that June 12th event that had such significant flooding, specifically in the Solid Trio Basin. The Solid Trio Creek rose quite a bit. I think the last I heard was upwards of 16 feet in just a few hours in Solid Trio Creek. And so we saw a pretty significant rain event from all throughout the collection system, and that's what the next couple of slides show that we can quickly review. But we are using this data to target improvements and make sure that the system is adequately sized to convey flow to the plant, and that we can target where these ionized sources may be to reduce the need to oversize lines to treat rainwater versus the wastewater. And that, I believe, is the end of my presentation, unless there are any questions. But next steps, obviously present to you all, get any feedback. This will go to our board of directors in September to adopt our new budget, which includes these rates in ordinance, and then October 1, our fiscal year start, the new rates.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Saul?
With regard to the ionized study, you have here that the ionized study will be completed 9/30. That's five.
So we have within our agreement with all of the wholesale partners, we get together each year and we compare what we're doing to tackle I&I in all the systems, since we all own a piece of the collection system. And so those reports from our wholesale partners, and we fill out a report as well to show you all what we're doing in our system, and we get together and compare what everyone else is doing. It's kind of more knowledge sharing than anything else, so that we can glean from each other proactive attempts to reduce the amount of inflow and infiltration in the system. And so those are just the reports that are in the ILA that we submit, and then we workshop together.
So on your side, it's easy to understand the capacity of treatment. The ionized studies identify spots within the community, obviously, that are of concern for your system. Is there any expectation that the I&I results will result in a timely?
There's no requirements for improvements. I think, honestly, Randy's team is incredibly proactive in identifying issues and lining up improvement projects to button up the system and to reduce, because that impacts their team as well. They manage quite a bit of retail collection lines. So those I&I and what may result into a sanitary sewer overflow, or that sewer does escape out of a manhole or clean out, impacts the residents and their team. But there is nothing in the interlocal agreement that requires improvements.
Randy more or less confirmed it at the last meeting, at least from his side. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? That sounds great. Thank you very much for the informative information.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.
And now we're ready for the golf architect report.
Yes, as you know, we've had quite a few reports done at the golf course lately. Council authorized us to go ahead and work with Nathan Grace to identify the actual cost of construction. If you remember when National Golf came in, they said $3.5 to $4.5 million. That was their best guess estimate. So Nathan, being a golf architect, can kind of button down the quantities and the work that needs to be done. So under council's authorization, we hired him. His report is there for you, and then he's just going to talk about some highlights of that. And then when he's done, we'll talk about next steps. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for the invitation to come speak. I know you have a long meeting tonight, so I'll just touch on the highlights and then handle any questions that you may have. Everyone has seen the report. I've been a golf course architect for 30 plus years now, but I've done a lot of work with municipalities and counties and state agencies and even the U.S. Air Force. We work on their golf courses. But I've also been on the other side where I've operated a golf course for years, a public municipally owned golf course. So I've sat on the other side of that table when it came time to look at capital improvements. I'm a member of the American Society of Golf Course Architects and former member of the board of that body. And again, I think what our firm brings to our clients is that experience of not only operating, but also doing architecture and renovation work on golf courses. I want to drill down into 4 key findings that we found in the reports. It's important to note that the golf course is about 25 years old, and a lot of the existing infrastructure is still there, primarily the bunkers on the golf course, the sand tracks. Irrigation being number 2, tee boxes being number 3, and tree management being number 4. So the bunkers have gotten to a point where there's a lot of, they're very labor intensive, especially after a rain event. The bunkers are oversized by today's standards. When the golf course was built, it was not unusual to have large bunkers like that even on a public golf course. But in this day and age, when labor is increasingly more difficult to find to work on a golf course, we find that going in and making part of the renovation to the bunkers, also minimizing the total square feet, helps in the long-term success of the golf course. There is no liner system in those bunkers, so there's a lot of soil contamination that gets in there every time it rains. Again, this is through no fault of the crew of the golf course. This is a infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed with capital improvement. Likewise, the irrigation is also the original system. There are a number of heads, the majority of the heads on that golf course are 25 years old. Jeremy and his crew have been replacing some as they fail with newer heads, but still that system itself is antiquated by today's standards. In fact, some of his control boxes that are out there on the golf course actually automate the system, are old enough that replacement parts are becoming more difficult to find. And it's just, again, it's a 25-year-old system. The newer system would be much more efficient. Watering could probably tighten the water window, in the long run, use less water and be able to identify trouble spots around the golf course instead of having to run heads when they don't need to be run, for example. The tee boxes are really a reflection of the success of the golf course. I mean, they're on track to do between 45 and 46,000 rounds of golf this year. That's a lot of golf for a public golf course. That's a lot of golf. And as a result, you have a lot more feet, a lot more divots on the golf course. And so, especially on the tees, there's a lot of wear and tear that's concentrated in those areas. So our recommendation is that we go in and strip the turf off the top of those tees, expand them, make them a little bigger, laser level them, so you have more areas to play from, and then sod that back. Number 4 on the list, again, tree management. So if you think about the golf course being 25 years old, the trees not only are 25 years old and more, but they're also 25 years larger than they were when the golf course opened. There are a number of trees out there that not only cause erosion issues because of the root system, shade issues that are detrimental to turf, but also some safety issues. Jeremy had a tree last night that just fell over in the middle of the night. When they got to the course this morning, they went out to do their routine maintenance. There was a tree laid over, but a pretty good sized tree. So there are some of those that would need to be addressed as well. And I would say maybe 4B, the front entrance to the golf course. It's in a really nice neighborhood. And the front entrance, I think, could be dressed up with some landscaping and lighting, maybe a new sign, and just really make it an entrance, the kind of the front yard to the golf course that you would when you pull in. So bunkers, irrigation, the tee boxes, and tree management, and then again, the front entrance. Our recommendation originally in this plan, we were very conservative in our reports, and we were spacing this out as in separate projects to kind of bite it all off a little bit at a time. But after further consideration, our recommendation is to seriously consider combining these into one project. There are a number of reasons. There's cost savings to the city, mobilization, demobilization. You have one golf course contractor who's overseeing all of this. So, for example, if you have a tree contractor who's out there and he's running up parts of the golf course, now he would work under the golf course contractor who would be responsible for repairing that, putting fresh sod down, that type of thing, and leaving it better than they found it. It's also, there's a level of expectation of quality when you have one golf course contractor who's handling the whole project, because they are solely responsible for the project from beginning to end. That speaks volumes to the quality of the golf course contractor as well, because they want to leave a good project behind so that they have their reputation to defend, if you would. In a project like this, again, we've done more public projects than I can count the last 30 years, but we put together all the documentation, the construction drawings, specifications, bid documents. We assist the city in the bidding process, help negotiate with the low bidder, and then we also handle construction observation throughout the project and through growing and opening day. The way this project would be done doesn't require to close the golf course, and I think that's very important. Last year they redid the greens. The greens look phenomenal, but when you redo greens, you have to close the golf course down because you eventually get to some point where you can't get on the greens and finish the hole. With the bunkers and the irrigation of the tees, we don't have to close the golf course down for that. There may be some areas that they're taking out a particularly large tree or something, we have some flagging and barriers to send people around to a different side of the hole or something to that effect. But it's important to note that no negative impact on revenue. In fact, usually what we find is that because, especially with a bunker renovation, people are out there playing golf, they see the results of the renovation as they're playing. They get back and tell their friends, hey, you need to go see what they're doing at such and such golf course. That really looks nice. And then it really kind of stirs up the excitement factor. Nothing helps golf like word of mouth these days. So, again, I know I kind of ran through it quick, but I know you have a long meeting. I just wanted to touch on the high points. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer whatever I can.
Any questions from the, Mr. Vaughan?
I guess from the original study that we got, some of the recommendations like the bunkers, for example, were to soften the course to make it a little easier play, and that might bring more people to the golf course.
Yeah, in a way of speaking. So because you have these big, large bunkers, and again, I'm glad you brought that up because the style of the bunkers that are out there now with the big pushed up faces, those are not only difficult to maintain, but they're more difficult to play. And so what we like to do is sort of a semi-flat bunker bottom where the sand's on the bottom, the grass comes all the way down to the top. It's easier to play out of. And again, you have some bunkers out there that don't need to be there. I mean, I think we're looking at a decent amount of reduction of square feet, which allows the staff to reallocate those man hours to other areas of the golf course because now when it rains, they don't have to go out and push up all the sand. They can go take care of other things they need to. But yes, you will definitely see, I would say, a increase in the golfer experience with new bunkers and the way they play and the way they look.
Well, I guess where I'm trying to get is, I'm trying to help me classify, is this a need or a little bit more of a desire? So if we're already hitting a really high level of rounds, this sounds like it might be more of a desire than a need.
Well, I think it's beyond the point of it being a desire at this point. They've gotten in such bad shape, and again, it's not something that any superintendent can manage his or her way out of because of the constant erosion of those faces and the contamination from the native soil that's gotten into the sand every time. It's become more and more labor intensive every time. So they've well exceeded it. There's a life cycle chart in this report. They far exceeded their life, their usable life for normal sand bunkers. And so our recommendation is to take advantage of the opportunity to renovate them and also reduce the number of square feet and change the style at the same time so that you're not turning around 10 years from now having to redo them. You're actually getting an extended life out of it, especially with the aggregate liners in bunkers these days. It makes all the difference in the world when the sand holds, it plays better, and again, it's a labor savings.
Anything else? Mr. Rubal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kind of bottom line, the recommendations, if I add it up, in excess of $3 million over the period of time if I look at the range of things. $3 million, obviously 25-year-old systems are more difficult to maintain. I've got a 2002 Chevy Blazer, run it from here to Colorado to go fishing every year. So they are maintainable. They're just more expensive to maintain, right? So essentially, we look at the maintenance cost for replacement on a piece-by-piece basis type thing. So in the case of irrigation, could there be a hybrid solution that's a little less expensive than actually $1.5 million?
Well,
I have two-year span here under irrigation, 680 and 980 in your report, I think.
oh, the 980 is the recommendation. It's not the two together, it's the 980. And that sort of is a hybrid solution. New irrigation systems these days, if you were to go replace that entire system, all new piping and the whole, I mean, you could easily spend it in excess of $2.5 to $3 million just on the irrigation system. It's incredibly expensive with the increase in price of pipe. In fact, most systems aren't done with PVC pipe anymore, they're done with HDPE pipe. And there's just so many changes. And I understand what you're saying about the vehicle. My wife has an old Thunderbird, and she loves driving around in that. But the comparison will probably be more applicable to a 2001 year model computer, running like Windows 95, because that's essentially what they're having to deal with out there. When they had the flood a month or so, I actually happened to be in town the day of the flood, and I've never seen anything like that on a golf course between day one and day two of site visits. But some of those satellite controllers that are out there were underwater. They have computer boards in there. Luckily, they very carefully cleaned them out, dried them out, and got them back up and working. But a new satellite pedestal like that, that's easily $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 these days to replace that. Our recommendation is a system that actually eliminates that old system. And now all the controls would be in the superintendent's office. And it's just a simple wire system. It runs everything back and it can be operated from there. So less chance of vandalism, damage from floods, somebody running into it with a golf cart, those types of things happen all the time. But yeah, our recommendation is not, the pipe is fine. The pipe is our recommendation is to change out the heads, change out the control system, and update the software and the computer system. And then you'll have a new system for the next 25 years.
So I guess to clarify, if I have a head that I can't find a replacement part, I can still buy a new head and put it on the existing pipeline. Is that
Yes, the pipe is fine. So what they would do, the contractor would go just dig up that head, and there's a swing joint at the bottom that connects the.
Right.
You always want to replace the swing joint because they wear out over time. But you would replace the swing joint in the head, and then they take the new wire that they plow in and use a vibratory plow, so it's not tearing the golf course up. It just pulls it under the ground like you've seen, like when they bore under with telephone wire or something like that. And then they just connect the head and the pipe stays the same. So there is a significant cost savings in doing that.
when you refer to the bunkers and the cost savings associated with bunkers, that's not going to translate into a manpower saving. So, we're not going to lose one equivalent manpower based on remodeling the bunkers.
No, what I caution people against is a bunker renovation usually pays for itself in 2 to 2.5 years. It's not a labor savings where you say, oh, well, now we don't need these 2 people on staff. Or not. It's a cost reallocation. So let's say Jeremy wants to top dress greens a little more often to make the putting surface as good as it can be to get as many people out there playing as you can. Now, when it rains, they don't have to go push up, spend a whole day or day and a half with the whole crew pushing sand up in bunkers. They can go out and do that extra top dressing, or they can do some tree trimming, or they can do other things on the golf course. So I'm not advocating for eliminating labor. I'm advocating for a way to cost savings that helps you reallocate that labor.
Just the last comment is essentially, if you thought you saw a flood, you haven't seen a flood there.
No, that was, I don't know what day that was, but it was, they had 7 inches of rain in like 3 hours that morning.
4th of July.
It was June 12th?
June.
Yeah, and when I got back out there the next morning, not a car in the parking lot. And Jeremy pulled up, he said, have you ever been on a site visit with a golf course? Wasn't there the second day. And I mean, just the debris and the damage and the debris line, just to see where the water got to in some of those areas along the creek, I've never seen it, except for maybe a hurricane, or a post-hurricane. This is really what it looked like, but.
I think members around here that can show you some 2004-ish pictures that will allow you to sit down while you're looking at it.
And really, speaking on that, the fact that they had volunteers and staff and everybody came in to get the golf course cleaned back up and get it reopened as quickly as they did, is an investment to the community as well. I couldn't believe when he called me. I called to check and see how things were going. He said, we're reopening tomorrow. You know, a few days out, I'll take it. So.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you for comparing it to the old computers. So if we upgrade all the systems, then that's going to save on Jeremy's time of maintaining it constantly. It's a high maintenance thing now, right? So getting it upgraded, you're going to spend less time. We're going to use less water. It's going to be more
efficient.
Okay.
Definitely.
I have a question about the trails, the cart path.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in this part of it? Because that's a mess.
So, you know, we had to prioritize the key issues relative to the venue tax. And so cart paths are things that can be done as part of annual capital expenditures. And I would recommend that, you know, and we can do that as while we're on site doing this, just identify the worst areas and set that out over the course of 3 years or however long the board wishes to do it and address those worst areas. And again, a lot of that is a kind of a double-edged sword. You get all the extra play and of course you bring more revenue in, but it's more wear and tear, more car tires on the golf course, more feet, you know, people walking around. And of course, the public golf course, a lot of people like to pull off 30 years, I don't know why they do this, but they pull halfway off the cart path when they get off to go walk up to the green. And that's all, if you saw in the report, there's a picture there from the 8th green, and it's just the erosion. And it's simply from carts pulling off. So we would identify the worst areas and then kind of put together a plan where they could invest X number of dollars each year and address those worst areas.
Okay. And I know our golf rate, the amount of golfers coming since we got the new greens has risen. And they're all, yes, we want to invite more people. We want more professional golfers out here. So I'm sorry, shiny and new is enticing. That's what's going to bring them in.
It is, and I think another great thing that I've seen out there the times I've been there, all the juniors. There's so many kids out there with Sal's junior golf program, but kids out there all the time, and I really, it's minimal expense, but I think we need to, because we're looking at these teams, look for areas where we can put forward tees, what we call family tees, and give those juniors an opportunity to come out there and learn the game at an early age, because it truly is a game they can play for life.
Just one more thing. I had an opportunity to go talk with Sal about a few things, and we were talking about how quickly they turned around from that terrible flood. And it really struck me because Sal takes great ownership in the golf course, and he was going around, he told me he was going around and thanking people for coming in and helping, and the response he got from the people there is, this is our home.
Oh, yeah. No,
And so there's great ownership within our community for wanting it to be the best.
You can absolutely tell, and when we rode around that morning, my heart broke for Jeremy and Sal, just knowing what was ahead of them, having to get things back, and then when I called back to check in,
Crazy.
he said, we're reopening tomorrow. I couldn't believe it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Goolsby?
Thank you. Sorry, this one might be for you, it's more for Ms. Turner. Sorry. So when we talked in the past, there were some other items that were proposed as well, like adult beverages at the driving range and things like that. Is this our guy, or is that another guy?
Well, that is one of the items that were in there, and we'll call that a nice luxury item to have, and also a source of revenue, to have a restroom and some vending machines, etc. down at the range. That is not in this report, but it is something certainly that can be worked on in the future. The other item, and I bring this back up again, and I know we're just talking about the range. We have to remember the number one item that affects our banquet sales is the fact that we do not have a room for the brides. And so that's not in this report either. It wasn't part of the scope, but all of those things will still come into play in the future.
Let's just not forget about him.
Yes, I
He
know.
was the guy that forgot about it. I want to chastise him. We're in good shape. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything else? Nathan, that was a very informative report. Thank you very much for the information. And I was kind of concerned when the first report was about breaking up the, I guess, the repair and the replacement of all the bunkers, the boxes, the irrigation system especially. Personal experience from working in NAP operations was that whenever you got the opportunity to replace it all instead of piecemeal, because it tends to break down. Just my opinion alone.
No, you're
I appreciate
absolutely
you identifying that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the other thing, that kind of the opportunity cost involved there, you don't want golfers going to work because they've been under construction for 3 years. There's always something under construction. Go ahead and bite the bullet and get it done. And one contractor that's accountable for it, and then you can get the golf course, running full steam again.
It's kind of like in our lodging operations in the Air Force. We didn't just do 3 or 4 rooms in a building. We did the entire dormitories.
Yeah.
And anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary. As a staff, obviously, we need some direction. As you know, we put in here, that if you decided you wanted to move forward, you would need to sign a contract with Mr. Grace and his firm for the design work and then the construction drawings and the RFP process and all of that. Once he was done with that and we actually had the bids back from the contractors, then we would bring those back to the council for approval to move to the construction phase.
Move to approve?
So is this a vote or just a consensus going forward?
Well, it's a report, which can be
So we can approve the
an
report.
action item, yes, sir.
All right, in that case, then. Do we have a second? We have a motion to approve the report as is and recommendation. Do we have a second?
I'll second. There's a question.
Yes. We'll discuss.
So we're going to go ahead and hire the guy.
Yes, and he's going to run us through the entire process.
With this motion that I just
Bids,
said.
everything. Once the bids are in, like we do with every construction project, we bring it to you and say, we had this many bidders, this is the low bidder, here's the recommendation. And at that time, council can move forward with the construction, or you have the option of not doing anything.
Do we know the initial cost for that process to start?
So this is why we hired him to do this one. So we know for his contract it's $105,000. And he's telling you based on quantities and everything else that he's identified, that you're in that range between 1.2 million and 1.8 million.
Right, to do the work. I'm talking about to prepare the RFP, get everything ready to go.
5,000.
Okay, which we've already committed to at this point, or
You
no?
have not.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Is that in our 26 budget, or is this going to get to be a budget amendment, or how are we paying for that?
So it's not, however, we could make an adjustment to the venue tax and move that $105,000 from the unused venue tax portion into the golf course budget to do this $105,000 worth of work, which has a timeline of how long?
Well, that covers our time all the way through construction.
Right,
So that's depending on how.
but for you to get the plans and
Oh, to get the
RFP
plans and all that
process,
kind of.
3 to 4 months.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. And so then at that time, we would come back to the council with the costs of the bids, and then the council can make the decision of whether or not they want to move forward.
Okay, well, I move we amend the motion to approve the contract if the golf course can find a way to pay for it without the venue tax.
Well, we already have a motion and a second on there. We have to, so we can't amend a motion that hasn't been voted on.
Yeah, Mayor, you can.
We can't.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so you have a motion and a second for the amendment, so you do a vote on the amendment, and then however that vote goes, you'll go to your original vote. So it'll be as amended if the vote passes on the amendment, and if not, it'll be as stated if it fails.
One more question.
And I have a comment as well.
Thank you. 105,000, there was 800,000 that we were not planning on sending over to the parks that we're leaving in the venue tax for, correct? Is that what we budgeted? So this is 1/8 of that.
Right, but Ms. Green is just telling me that in fact there is also already unused venue tax in the 25 budget that could be used for this project and then not have any impact at all on the proposed 2026 budget.
How much is left over?
The whole 105,000.
The whole 105,000, yes. We have $675,000 of venue tax that was budgeted for fiscal year 25 that has not yet been sent to or transferred to the golf course. The golf course currently has approximately $400,000 surplus right now. So they're going to increase their fund balance in October. The increase in their fund balance without the $675,000 is almost $500,000. So they have enough money right now to pay the $105,000. I would just have to confirm with the auditors that it wouldn't be considered a prepaid item.
But the original vote, the original motion and second just says we're approving it. We're not saying that we're going to transfer money from the venue tax. Is that correct? Did we say anything about transferring additional money from the venue tax in the first motion? We just said we're approving the 105.
We're approving the report, correct?
Well,
We're approving the expenditure.
You're authorizing the staff to expend the $105,000.
But we didn't say where the money's coming from. We're not saying we're pulling it out of venue tax in that motion. Okay, thank you.
Do they need to?
Yeah, any other discussion? So the vote
On the amendment.
on the amendment, call for the vote for the amendment now.
Which is not to take any money from the venue tax.
No, is just to fund the proposal as is.
No,
the amendment is
to
do it without venue tax.
Additional venue tax.
Additional venue tax.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, I am confused on this one. That does not seem what was proposed. Ms. Putt, what was your original motion? What were you?
It was to approve the report that we just received and to give staff permission to go ahead and proceed with the 105,000.
Okay. Whether, and that has got to come from venue tax. All right, that is designed from venue tax,
I'm
correct?
sorry, sir.
Isn't it all?
The $105 obligated for this program would be coming from venue tax, correct?
The $105,000 would most probably be venue tax, yes, because although they have the $400,000 surplus, they did receive $500,000 from venue tax this fiscal year.
But this is venue tax from 2025, not
Yes, sir.
new venue tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, we're straight. Yes.
What's easiest for you?
Good question.
Well,
Not you.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
There's no reason not to move forward. The golf course has enough money, and I project that August so far they'll probably have even more revenue coming in than anticipated. So there's really no reason not to move forward with it.
With either of the
With
motions.
either option, yeah.
So we can take it with that, so we can go with you. With that,
So we can vote for it on Mr. Vaughan.
yes, we go, have to do that second one though.
No.
The first one puts guardrails. The second one puts guardrails on the first ones.
The motion is, Mr. Vaughan, like repeat it.
So I'm amending the motion to say that we'll approve the contract as long as we're not providing additional venue tax that's already been, additional venue tax above what's already been budgeted for the golf course.
Budget or identified?
The 2025 budget.
Or 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to do it in 25.
What do I hear a second?
30.
You got it, Mr. Burke, okay. No other discussion, call for the vote.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
No.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
No.
Councilmember Shelby.
No.
Mayor.
I'll break the tie and go with the no.
The motion failed.
So now we need to do the original motion. Yes. So,
I move to approve.
now it's already.
She's already-
Okay.
So call for the vote.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
No.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
No.
Motion carried.
Looking forward to the final product.
Thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
And now we have the staff report for the 5-year crime trend presentation.
Yes, so this is a request by Councilmember Rubal, by design.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you. I couldn't hear you.
I apologize. This is a request by Councilmember Rubal for a 5-year crime trend report. So Chief Mahalski has put a presentation together for you, and Mayor Bell's going to pull that up here in a second. You have before you on the dais a little handout. Just going to use some terms. We want you to understand what is included in that term, so that's why you have the paper before you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me. As City Manager said, we're going to go over the 5-year crime trends. This is for 2020 through 2024. There we go. The papers that you have in front of you are the required reportable offenses that we have to send to the state of Texas and the FBI for the Uniform Crime Report. I've given you the sheet. There's 34 different offenses on that sheet that we're required to report every year as we get those offenses in. Up here, you have the total number of all of those offenses combined. That's called the Group A offense report. That's what the UCR calls it. It really doesn't mean anything to us. I just want you to understand what it says when you see Group A on there. Group A is broken into 3 different categories. It covers crimes against persons, property crimes, and crimes against society. So I'll go into each one of those a little more specific. We're going to start with the overall. This is the total of all of those combined. Starting in 2020, we had 1,611 offenses. We had basically no increase, like 15 different offenses on 2021. So statistically the same. 2022, we had a minor decline. And then in 2023, we saw a pretty significant bump in crime. Followed up in 2024 by an almost equal decline back to at or below normal numbers. I'll go into the spike a little bit more when we get into property crimes. It was mainly attributed to burglary and theft type offenses. So as I get into that category, I'll cover that spike a little bit more. So we'll start with crimes against persons. This is your typically violent crimes or injury to person type crimes. It covers murders, aggravated assaults, sexual assault, other offenses like that. Typically things that are injured. It also covers your family violence calls. It covers your simple assaults, which is the bulk of what we deal with here. You can see that our numbers are relatively equal and declining over the course of the 2020 to 2024, ending with the, I think, second lowest numbers in 2024 for us with 373 total offenses. Of those in 2024, 65% of them were simple assault. Simple assault ranges from contact, unwanted contact, to basically a fist fight. So a lot of your family disturbances end up in that. Our violent crime numbers are relatively low in the single digits to mid-teens, typically for the course of a whole year. Sexual assault offenses also fall into that category. On your report, the FBI uses different statistical or statute terms than we do. In Texas, it's called sexual assault. In the UCR, it's called rape. They also use the term intimidation. We don't have that in the Texas statute. Harassment type offenses, terroristic threats, stalking, those kind of cases fall into some of these. So some of these numbers, there's a group of statutes that we may have that'll fall into one single category for the UCR. Moving on to crimes against property. This is where the bulk of our numbers come from on a yearly basis. You can see the numbers are the highest there with 880 starting in 2020. And goes up slightly each year, and then again a spike in 2023, and it drops back down to below average numbers in 2024. Crimes against property is, like I said, the bulk of what we deal with. It's a lot of shoplifting calls, it's a lot of theft, burglary of a vehicle calls that we get. And those can be attributed usually to economic conditions as the main one. And in 2023, we had super high grocery prices, we had high fuel prices, inflation was an issue, unemployment was an issue. When those kind of things happen, people tend to either steal the products that they need, or they steal equipment or other things that they can sell to get money to buy the products that they need. So you'll typically see a spike in thefts and burglaries when you have poor economic conditions. Another contributor to that is officer shortages. In 2023, we hired 6 new officers. 6 officers is about a third of our patrol officer staff. So that's a pretty significant loss for us to have that many openings. That means that everybody else is picking up all the calls that are coming in. So you have 1 less or 2 less officers on each shift that are responding to calls, which the officers that we have then have to respond to those. So it takes proactive time away, where officers aren't patrolling neighborhoods, they're not hitting some of our hotter spots and doing security checks and doing the things that we would normally do to try to help reduce this. Because they're busy bouncing from call to call. We were able to hire those officers to get them on the street. Once they get out of training, then they're out in the road. We have more people handling calls, so more people have time for traffic enforcement, for selective patrols, for those kind of things, and that's why you see the numbers start to come down. Crimes against society is offenses that typically don't have an individual as a victim. This is where the general public is your victim in these offenses. Narcotics violations, prostitution, disorderly conduct, DWIs, and some weapons offenses all fall under crimes against society. These numbers you'll see start lower in 2020 and increase a little each year. And this is one area where that's not a bad thing to see as an increase because these are generated by the police department. So it doesn't mean that necessarily someone's a victim of an offense. It means we're catching more people doing things bad and we're putting them in jail. So with more officers on the street, with everybody out doing their job, doing more traffic control, doing some more selective enforcement, they tend to come across more things. And so those numbers spike a little bit, ending the highest in 2024, 322. There's a lot of numbers on this page, so I apologize if it's confusing to look at. But this is the Universal City Calls for Service. This incorporates all of these numbers that we just talked about and all the additional calls and everything else that we take on the course of a year that we don't have to report for UCR. It would cover your alarm calls, suspicious activity, transient calls, car crashes. Basically everything else we do that's not on the sheets that I gave you falls into this. So you can see 2020 we started with 14,300 calls. Goes up to 18,000, then to 21, back down a little bit in 2023, and then down even this year. Traffic enforcement has gone up. In 2023, we started the traffic unit, so you can see a pretty significant jump from 2022 to 2023, and then another significant jump as it was full-time for all of 2024. ED those are emergency detentions. Those are mental health calls. Where someone is taken into custody and transported to a hospital for a mental health evaluation. Those numbers have stayed relatively equal throughout all those years. And then the mental health is a new thing that came along with our mental health program that we've started. Those are calls that are mental health related, where we offer assistance, provide services that don't quite meet the criteria to put someone into the hospital, but we're still providing a service. We're still spending time and out with those people. Follow-up calls, if we were there maybe a week before, just to go back and check and make sure something's good. So for a total for the year, you'll see 2020 was COVID year, so that was actually a little bit down, probably below normal. 21 is getting back to normal. And 22 to 24, we're about the 30,000 calls for service range, and that's where we've steadily been. this is just a kind of a visual to help go over what we were just talking about. The top blue line is our total offenses, so obviously that's the highest number because it's everything combined. And you'll see it's relatively stable. There's a spike in 2023, and then it ends at a below average rate. For crimes against property, the bulk of what we handle, again, it stays relatively flat. You got a little spike in 2023 with the economy and those conditions, and then it drops back down to below average levels. Our crimes against persons are relatively low and relatively flat. And then our crimes against society is the bottom one, and you see the slight uptick at the end where things are picking up. Just to finish up, this is about the end of it. Basically, everything remains pretty even from year to year. This is a long-term study for us in law enforcement. You know, there's a big difference in 2025 to 2020. So this is long-term in our view. In between all of these years and each of these months and weeks and days as it goes by, little spikes happen here and there. And our officers are proactive. They're talking to each other. We have boards in the back that have our calls from the previous nights. And so we pay attention to certain areas. When we see crime trends start to go in a certain direction, we send selective patrols. We do things to those areas to try to minimize any of these major spikes that you get. And that's why it stays relatively stable. And looking at the other surrounding agencies, the county, the city, our numbers are pretty consistent with other agencies our side, other cities on this side of Bear County. Our numbers are in the same range as where everybody else is. That's all I have. You have any questions?
Mr. Good?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That last thing, we're about just the same as everybody else in the neighborhood over here in Bear County?
Yeah, statistically, I mean, on the trends, that's about what we see. Our numbers are relatively close to what Live Oak is, to what Selma is, to what Congress is. There's certain things that are higher and lower, obviously, but all in all, the total number of offenses, we're pretty close to all of them.
And then on those ED calls, is that when the officer has to take someone, do you lose that officer just about the entire day?
No, it's gotten a lot better.
Is it better now?
We used to, but now it's gotten very streamlined, and with the help of EMS, EMS will show up, they'll call and find out which hospital they need to go to, and sometimes EMS will transport them. Most of the time we do rarely send an officer. It's a matter of filling out a couple forms, and they're back pretty quick. It's quicker than taking somebody to jail.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Councilman, the lion's share of the resource on those calls is up front, the interview process where you're trying to decipher and discern whether or not they need to go and get that type of help. So you spend a lot of upfront interviewing, talking time, interviewing relatives, trying to get a feel for that situation. The after part, the actual transport, that to Chief's point, that's been streamlined quite a bit with MedCom and some of the other resources we have around the state now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This was all the first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for putting this together. There has been perception by the community expressed in the council chamber that the crime rate has increased. Also, essentially, there are a number of websites that show us we're not doing well compared to national averages. And for FBI statistics, there's a general decrease in essentially violent and property crimes across the country at this point in time. It's kind of plateauing, but it's kind of decreasing. So in these numbers, what are we compared to the national average? For example, what are our numbers per thousand? I guess I can calculate that, but that's the real comparison.
It's on the sheet, I guess.
Right there on the sheet?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Last column.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so that's great. Is there a national average rate that's associated with this? So did you provide that also somewhere in this report? So we can say that whenever the realtors say, and they literally do, we have a D- rating as far as crime in Universal City compared to other surrounding cities. They usually compare that with the national rate per 1,000 or per 100,000. So,
Mr. Rubal, can you back up to the D-minus rating, sir? I don't mean to cut you off, but I'd like to handle one issue at a time. Where are you getting that? I'm unfamiliar. I'm a real estate agent, if anybody's interested. Mary Eddie, no offense. I'm just kidding, but as a real estate agent, I've never seen a D-minus rating for you. I'm not sure what sites you're referencing, and I don't know how accurate those sites are. And I just want to make sure that the data, it's good data, data in is good, and bad in, bad out.
Now, the only
That doesn't help me, sir. I'm not sure.
You're right. Well, that's why this doesn't help them. The only thing that I'll give you this. In fact, if you go to the council message board, all of these sites are referenced. Okay, so just look at the council reference board and you'll be able to find.
But the sites we don't use those. We use UCR and the federal sites that are accurate, fairly accurate crime reporting sites. That's my point. We report to the crime sites that we're required to report to by law, and those are the sites we use. I'm not sure what your preference is.
I think part of the problem with the real estate ones that he sees is the algorithm that is used on the internet. If one firm points that out and then somebody else picks it up and reuses it and then reuses it, then when somebody types in crime rate in Universal City, that one has been used so many times, it's the first one that pops up. That is not something that we can control.
Well, again, it would be important to look at the U.S. rate reported by the FBI statistics and compare that to our rate as a reasonable thing to do. Because essentially just looking at the flat plateau there doesn't necessarily give us context versus the country as a whole. And in San Antonio, we're higher. In Dallas, it's higher than San Antonio and all these sorts of things. But essentially, there is a number of rate per thousand that's sort of a normalizing number. The other thing that's important for us to appreciate is where in our neighborhoods are these crimes occurring. And a 2019 report probably derived from your report because it has a similar format. Essentially, it says that most crime is in the home, type thing. And what neighborhoods have the higher property crime rates or have the higher rates of violence within the families, and essentially that allows us obviously to direct resources to those areas.
Right.
And so it would be important to appreciate whether the flock cameras have had any significant impact on local crime. They've had impact on criminals that have come from outside our city, but does it have an effect on the property crimes within Coronado or those areas that run parallel to 1604 with easy entry and exit type things? That's kind of the thing that I'd like to see some insight on, because from the neighborhood, yeah, this truck was broken into, they stole my tools, it was locked, and it's not unusual to hear that in some areas of the city. It's been said that there are teenagers that walk down sidewalks looking for open doors with a car trailing behind at garage doors, and so they do a quick run through in the Meadowland area type thing. So I'm trying to get a handle on the perception that's expressed again in council chambers and just walking around on where we're at here as far as localities within the city, and as far as comparison to a national number.
Well, with the monthly stat reports that you are provided, those numbers are broken down more into neighborhoods. And this was an overall crime trend for our city. So you do see some of those groups where our calls for service go to broken down by district. And what I was speaking to earlier when the graph was up was when we start to notice that we're getting more calls for burglaries in a certain area, or more calls for suspicious activity in a park, or more transient activity somewhere, we focus our resources in real time on going there. The FBI's national crime trends, I'm more concerned with the crime trends in our local regional area where we're at, because Seattle, Washington, and New York City, and every little town in between is going to be different than what we have here. So their number fluctuations could be huge compared to our percentages. We go from zero murders to 1 murder, that's a 100% increase. So it can be skewed, but in our local area and what we focus on and what we try to look at is what's going on in our community and our surrounding areas, and we're consistent with what is and has been always in this area and around us.
And from 2020 to 2025, you have to understand our population has increased and the number of people coming through the city has increased, yet the numbers have remained the same. So that means they are doing something right.
Well, again, there's a normalization that can be done in comparison based on 1,000 people, 1,000 residents type thing, and stand by, please. Just FYI, sir, essentially going back to 2019 compared to 2024. There was a 27% decrease in citations, a 42% decrease in the number of warnings, which is all good, trending down type thing. And as far as arrests, there was a 59 to 60% decrease in that larger span of time, which pretty much goes along with the national trend for a decrease. So I think it's things that we're doing locally. And I also think that the trend has been that way for our country. We're out of kilter. And
roughly one thing, is there a question here, because this is turning into a lecture?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please just ask the question.
Can you provide the crime statistics per neighborhood? You stated that it's on the report, but the Z report, what we find in the Z report tab has to do with traffic, not with crimes. And the zones that are provided are not related to Red Horse or Coronado or Meadowland or Cibolo Crossing, type thing. Could we get that sort of resolution in the reports just to track what's going on?
We can look at it. I'll talk to our analyst, to Tony, and see what it would take to put something like that together.
They can't do it by individual neighborhoods.
You can.
You can, but it takes a lot of
They can't do it by individual
legwork.
subdivisions. I mean, look at Olympia alone, it's 21 subdivisions. Coronado is, we call it the Coronado subdivision. It's broken up into 4 or 5 different sections when you look at it by subdivision. And I'm talking about subdivision plat. So it's kind of hard to do it by neighborhood.
We have 5 districts, and we have 5 districts. We only have like 5 neighborhoods. I mean, so they're kind of in the districts, the neighborhoods. You can see that Olympia is it takes up the lion's share of one district. You can see that Coronado occupies the lion's share of another district. We could run it by street if you wanted it, but it's going to take a lot of resources on our end to do that. We figured we police by districts, we assign officers by districts, we troubleshoot and hotspot crime deter by districts. We would report by districts, but we can take deeper dives. It just takes a little more effort from staff and takes away from other duties. That's no problem.
It would be great for just to, even if you want to do it by district, essentially to give the crime report by district. Again, the only thing that I'm seeing on the agenda is essentially traffic.
Crime should be on there as well, sir. I know that when I looked at it last, the data was on there as well, but we'll double check that, Councilman. Make sure that it's still being reported that way.
Yeah.
But crime, traffic, crashes, DWIs, all that's reported on the Z report.
On this sort of format.
Yes, sir. But we'll double check, Councilman. Duly noted.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question directly with that.
Yes, I don't know if Dan Hancock is still providing those reports, but he does one by neighborhood every month. So they do exist. Dan Hancock is a
We
member
use
of
it from them.
Citizens Police Academy.
Gets it from them.
Yes.
But he breaks it down into, he drills it out to, I think, closer to what. Yeah, I mean, I think Bernie could get on that list and then he could get that information directly.
Or you can join the UCPAAAA.
I think it's true. Actually, I used to get that. I don't get that anymore. They've left me on. I'm going to start with an opinion. I've lived here my entire life. I think crime is at or lower than it was when I grew up here. I've lived pretty much in the same general area of the city, other than maybe about 6 years over in Meadowland in the 70s. Don't remember a lot of crime back then, don't remember a lot of problems back then. I think there's a lot of perceived crime on social media. I think there's a lot of people that are not reporting, they're reporting things on social media, but they're not calling the police. If you don't call the police, it doesn't end up in the numbers. So jumping back out of my opinion, the numbers that are in front of us come out of a computer that is pulled from all of the calls you guys take. This is not being made up. This is not being generated by multiple algorithms that are trying to capture stuff, because the internet doesn't have access to these numbers. So when a realtor site, and the number one of them that go out there and try and sell a house, they're trying to scrape data wherever they can, but they're not pulling this data. They're not, you guys aren't receiving requests from realtors to provide this data to them, correct? So I'm going to go off of the data you're giving me, which tells me that crime is relatively flat. Looking at the crime per capita, comparing ourselves to other places, I mean, if crime as a whole in the country goes up, we're going to be in the same comparison as we were before, because the crime per capita will go up for everybody. So it's hard to sit there and try and compare us to the rest of the country. What I know is that even as safe as I live in the city, I lock my car if it's parked outside. I don't leave things out to where they can be seen. I don't leave anything in my car. If I wanted to get stolen, I'd leave it in my car. That's pretty much how I think about it. Or it goes in the trunk. I'd love to look back in the days when I was a kid in the middle of, I'd go visit my grandparents in South Central Illinois, in the middle of nowhere where nobody locked their cars, but we live in an urban area, and that's just not expected. So I'd love to think that I can leave anything outside and it's never going to get taken. But that's not the world we live in. So what I'm concerned with is, yes, property crime is a problem. That is, and that will always be driven, as you said, and I'm going to agree with you, as you said, by the economy. If people are hurting, they're going to try and take the things that they need, or people are going to try and take things that they can then use to try and sell to people who are in need. So it's a vicious cycle. But the fact that the murder rate is pretty much as it was. I remember hearing, we have so few of these, it's big news when it happens. I would prefer you guys don't spend more of your time building us statistical reports, and I'd rather you be spending that time making sure the city's safe. Thank you.
Amen.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I was going to say the same thing. I feel like your time being proactive, I do feel like you look at trends and you respond to them appropriately and redirect resources. There's been a couple of comments that we've had lots of safety concerns referenced here in council or to us in community. And what I've found is I've heard of speeding being a real problem or those kinds of things, but I haven't heard about public safety, the crimes. And I feel like we are always, I feel like you guys are always trying to think outside the box on ways to manage to that. And I do feel like people feel like this is a safe community. And to Councilmember Shelby's point, I would rather you spend time policing the community versus coming up with statistical reporting.
You do give out the district crime rates. I remember getting it once a month of what district has the most crimes. Would knowing what streets make a difference on how you're patrolling? You're out moving around. I don't see the advantage of...
It's always a moving target.
Right.
That's the reality of it. It's going to change. There's not one specific street or neighborhood that is always going to be a victim of some sort of.
So you're gonna have more patrols in an area that has had more recent calls,
Vehicle
just to kind
burglaries
of
come in
keep
waves, and
everything
it's
off the
usually a group
street.
of people that come into town. They're here for a day or two, and then they leave, they go to another city, and they bounce all around. It's
And one of
part of
the
the way they
things-
don't get caught.
One of the things
Why not
being out and
stand there?
about, I hear, you know, is we see our police out everywhere. You know, we're a small town, but wow, we have a patrolman everywhere. Of course, unless someone runs a red light, then you're not around, but that's what we hear. But I'm just saying, your numbers are great. You do get the reports. Stay out on the street and protect us. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Chief. Appreciate it. And let's close this meeting.
Thank you.
Does anybody need to take a quick break before we proceed into the open meeting?
I wouldn't turn it down.
I will turn it down.
Wouldn't turn
Let's
it
take 8 minutes. Thank you, Ms. Mansfield.
I'm sorry. A lot of our channels do. Lori, Ms. Putt to the dais. Please grace us with your. Okay. Ms. Putt. Really?
8:54, 8:55, let's
29.
reconvene, please.
29 and a 20.
Looks like we lost a few.
Thanks for staying.
Thank you very much, I do appreciate that. Now it comes into the public hearing of our portion of our council meeting. The first one is A, Ordinance 670, 2025, Designation of Reunion District Reinvestment Zone Number 1.
You can go ahead and open the public hearing.
At 8:50, I'm sorry, 7:55? 7:55.
As you know, several weeks ago, I presented to you the criteria for tax abatement. That was the very first step. The second one is to designate the reinvestment zones. And so you're probably wondering why we just didn't do them at the same time. It's because state law requires us when we're doing the reinvestment zones that I sent out certified mail to all the taxing entities in Bexar County, and of course I had to do it in Guadalupe County as well, notifying them that we're intending to go through this process and give them the opportunity to respond. They all received their letters. I got all my certified mail certificates back. Nobody called with any questions. None of them are here tonight. And so with that, Mayor, I have no further information other than this is for the reunion project, and it does encompass the whole thing. Again, reminding you that just because you have the criteria and just because you have the reinvestment zone, when you receive an application, there's no guarantee that anybody receives anything. Every project stands on its own, every term stands on its own, and so this is just to get that process started.
No one has signed up to speak for the open hearing, public hearing. If anybody would like to, by custom, since this is kind of a last minute, going once, going twice. It's closed at 7:56. Looking at the clock up there.
56.
57. Open the open meeting, public hearing. Open the public hearing for Ordinance 671, 2025, Designation of Aviation District Reinvestment Zone 1 at 7:59. Look at that 8 o'clock there.
So ditto on everything that I said for the reunion. Let's just talk about the aviation district a little bit differently. As you know, when you look at the plan for the aviation district, the plan shows a lot of housing in there, whether it be duplexes or single family. Remembering that tax abatements are not for residential property, they're for commercial and industrial properties. And you say, well, if we intend to have housing, why do you put the whole thing in there? That's a concept plan. It could very easily be where we have housing, it might scoot out and be more retail. And so that's why I did the entire aviation district. And let's just face it, the survey was already done and the map was ready too, so it made it a little bit easier. Otherwise, we'd have to hire somebody to go back and recraft it. So that's why we did the aviation district.
Again, no one has signed up to speak for the aviation district, but I'll give you the courtesy if anybody would like to say anything. Going once, going twice, and then the public hearing is closed at 8 o'clock. Got it right on there, got that sitting around. Now, any council comments? Questions or anything?
Mr. Mayor, our comments can be directed a little bit later on.
That is correct.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Let's close that out. Let's go with the announcements, city manager announcements.
I will forego announcements this evening, sir.
Okay. Mayor announcement, I just want to note that actually I'll forego my announcement also, and we'll start off with custom as Mr. Vaughan had the invocation tonight, so we'll start with you.
Nothing for me, Mayor.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, sorry. I'll keep mine very quick. I'd like to thank the Universal City Fire Department, the local Randolph Composite Squadron and Civil Air Patrol worked with the City of Universal City to go out and paint fire hydrants. I think it's been 3 weeks ago. I'm planning on trying to gather some of them in some point in the future. Unfortunately, they have their meeting at the same time that the council is, so it would be a little bit of a challenge, and I don't want to mess up their meeting. But we went, and I believe we painted about 40, close to 40 fire hydrants in the Olympia area. So great job on the kids' parts, coming out on a Saturday morning and spending solid 2.5 hours painting fire hydrants. And we appreciate the fire department working with us to let us do that. Thank you.
Quite impressive. Ms. Putt?
Just that we went to a conference downtown last 2 weeks ago now, I guess. Great information, learned a lot, appreciate it. I think we all should be going to stuff like this and keep caught up. My other thing is we will be soon sending our condolences to the Kinney family. Lieutenant Kinney, who is a retired PD junior, may not be around tomorrow, and we'll miss him, and we thank him and keep him in your hearts and prayers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Rubal?
Second, the Texas Municipal League conference was superior. It taught me how much I don't know yet and how much essentially our staff does know. So I appreciated attending that.
Ms. Goldman?
Thanks, sir. So we have the comprehensive plan, the rough draft is up on the website.
Yes, sir.
Through the end of the month, we asked that everybody get their input in. They came and gave us a presentation last week. I don't see a lot of familiar faces from that presentation last week. I'll just have you council members know. Yeah, I called you up. Still don't. But that is out for everybody to throw their comments back to the people, and so they can get as much input as possible makes for a better comprehensive plan. Thank you, Mr.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I will say that I actually emailed the city manager about attending the comprehensive plan, and she encouraged us not to attend. So, maybe you should follow instructions.
I don't have to listen to her.
And I also attended the conference, and I did walk away with invaluable information. And I will say, I know that this was a conference that the city had to pay for, and I felt like it was very much worth the money to send us. So thank you for making that available to us. That's all.
Thank you. Now we'll close that. Next is the consent agenda. All matters listed under this item is considered routine by City Council. Has been a request to remove item A from there, and so we will only be voting for B through E.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Now, consideration for item 8. Mr. Rubal, that was your request?
Yes, sir. For reasons associated with procedure, I would like a voice vote by council for that agenda. That's all.
Okay. Yes.
Is there something in particular that
Yes, that's, my question is, what is the concern?
The concern was, I believe, that the workshop may have inadvertently violated the Open Meetings Act by producing a walking quorum. And that's the reason that I asked for a vote on it at this section.
Okay. Call for a motion.
Move to approve the July 8th, 2025 special meeting budget workshop minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Vaughan,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby, Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
No.
Motion carried.
Action items. 2025-26 budget presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you the presentation for the fiscal 2026 proposed budget. I'll bring it there. Make sure it's
Oh, it just changed.
We changed to, okay, we'll start with that. So fiscal year 2026 budget highlights. The proposed budget includes a cost of living adjustment for existing staff. We're not requesting any additional staffing for this budget. The cost of insurance expenses is expected to increase by 35%. That's the health insurance that the city has available to employees. We cover 100% for employees, but they cover for their families.
Oh, thanks. There you go.
So the general fund, again, highlights the items that we reduced or deferred from the original budget that we had discussed with council in June was we deferred the space assessment, space needs assessment, which is $135,000. The Summit Park and Skate Park planning has been deferred. It was at $90,000. Oil and lubricants we reduced from $55,000 to $30,000. The fire department utility vehicle, which was originally budgeted for $90,000, has been deferred to another year and also reduced to $70,000. The fire department was working on an Opticon preemptive system. It's $55,000 annually for a 10-year term. It's been deferred, but I do know the fire department is working to see if they can get that cost down. So here you see the general fund revenue. We're anticipating the revenue to be $20,532,000. 78% of that is represented from our taxes. Ad valorem is 9.2, sales tax 3.9, franchise fees 1.3, and then from the venue tax, we're transferring $1 million this fiscal year. Now, the general fund does consist of 15 departments, and I don't think I need to list them all because I feel like everyone here has seen this slide before, but we do have 15 departments. Thank you. The general fund expenditure changes by department are listed here. We're listing the decreases first. We have 4 departments that decreased from the fiscal year 25 budget. General services is down $196,000. This is related to signal maintenance and grant matches that are no longer in that budget. Animal shelter is $93,000 less, and that's contract services and some costs that were related to purchasing a vehicle. Capital cost. The library is down by $13,000. That's technical services. They had to pay some fees in this fiscal year that are not required in the next fiscal year. And then for the finance department, we're decreasing by almost $10,000 because of auditing costs have been reduced. Primarily because my staff is doing most of the journal entries that are normally done by the auditors. The general fund expenditures continue with increases by department. Non-departmental is increasing by $364,000. This is primarily related to the health insurances that we were discussing earlier. Police department is $318,000. This is salaries, contract services, supplies, and maintenance. The fire department is a $111,000 increase. It's funding that is related to the EMS services that we have that are provided here, as well as memberships. Development services increased by $77,000. That's mostly related to the planning related expenses. Parks and Recs overall changed by $35,000, and it's just park improvements. Vehicle maintenance increased by $8,000. The $8,000 is related to training that I believe has something to do with diagnostic equipment, but I would have to defer to Randy to determine exactly what that training is. And human resources increased by $20,000 because we're implementing an FMLA and an EEOC claims software. It allows staff not to have to be directly involved with some of these complaints, and it does allow a little anonymity to the person that are filing. So next is our utility fund. The total revenues anticipated are $12,648,000. Total expenditures $11 million, and then you'll see broken down public works, utility, water, sewer, non-departmental, debt service, and then capital, which is our CIP. Stormwater is actually a really simple fund. It has revenues of $940,000 and expenditures anticipated to be $766,000. Now we're to the golf course. The highlights for the golf course primarily is the 5-year capital item replacement schedule that we've added to the budget. And then we've also added a department that is, a department, if you see on the right-hand side, capital outlay, where we're going to identify capital items that are being purchased within the golf course fund. For this fiscal year, the golf course, for this particular portion of the budget is only requesting $101,000 from the venue tax. The remaining portion that would have gone to the golf course is going to stay in the venue tax fund, and then we'll see in the future whether or not council will allow us to use it for capital improvements within the golf course. Other than that, they are pretty self-supporting. They are using fund balance of approximately $25,000 or $40,000. Other than that, they're pretty self-supporting for the new fiscal year. Next, thank you. The debt service fund, we're anticipating ad valorem taxes to cover debt to be $2,100,000. Interest at about $53,000. That's because a lot of the interest rates are dropping. Then the bonds are listed below with their expiration dates, or their paid in full dates. Utility debt service here is covered by water sales revenue. It's $1.4 million. And again, we've listed the expenditures, or the bonds by, the COs by date, and then the expiration date is on the right-hand side. Capital improvements for the general fund for the 2023 road bond reconstruction. All those streets that are being worked on are listed below. And then we also have the CDBG improvements that are listed there too. And I know earlier today, the Public Works Department was informed that they were awarded the CDBG grant for their granting portion to cover that. They were awarded the CDBG street improvement grant. Thank you.
The Westway is $480,000.
Next is capital improvement for utility fund, which is sewer line rehab, property acquisition, water tank painting, and then annual water and sewer line rehab projects. And capital improvements for the stormwater are the Cibolo Creek property clearing, Oak Meadows drainage project, brush cleaning, and then all that is funded through revenue through the stormwater fund. Next, thank you. The special revenues, we have 14 funds within the special revenues. State legislation changed as of May 29th, so now we're required to also have a fund for consolidated court and tech security. We'll have to expend what's in court tech and court security before we start using any monies that are deposited into the consolidated court tech and security consolidated account. But at least it will reduce it will help the city to spend the money instead of having to figure out which one of the two funds we could have used for certain projects. The only other item in here would be most probably the ARPA, which this year we have $170,000 approximately in fiscal year 2026. That's going to cover the mental health officer for fire and for PD. Keep in mind we won't have that for subsequent years, just this will be our last year. And then our venue tax. Next slide. Venue tax is budgeted at $1.9 million, a transfer of $1 million to the general fund to cover a portion of Parks and Recreation's budget. There's a transfer of $101,800 to the golf course capital expenditures to cover golf carts, and the remaining $800,000 will remain in the venue tax fund or possibly future CIP projects within the golf course with council approval. And that would be the budget. Any questions?
On the debt service, on the presentation, you had 2.1 million in property tax, but I think the budget that was included in the packet had 1.8 with some fund balance being used.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. I apologize. I didn't catch that until I started reading it out. So
But it is what's in the budget, what you're
yes,
planning?
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Mr. Rubal?
Yes, sir, thank you, Mr. Knight. What part, if any, of the $800,000 that remains in venue tax can be moved to parks to offset any relief in property tax?
Well, the budget is 1.8 million for the parks.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
The parks budget is 1.8 million. So we already have $1 million, so that's $800,000. But you have to be cautious of those, that you do have grants that are coming in that would offset some of those expenses as well. And if for some reason you didn't meet the payroll budget, for instance, or if something didn't happen within the budget, you run the risk of double dipping between grants and revenue received from the venue tax.
So currently, I believe the match for that is about $175,000, so that seems to be.
Well, not the match, though, the actual amount we receive from grants for the parks.
I see.
Yeah, so let's say during the fiscal year, if Randy were to find another grant that could be used toward parks, and it was $500,000. If that grant was awarded and council approved the accepting of that grant, then you're actually at $1.5 million toward the parks budget, if that makes sense.
Yes, it finally is.
Okay.
That said, it does point to a limitation in having the flexibility in venue tax use toward the general fund because of this split that occurs to parks, the limitation of parks, and essentially that's kind of where we're stuck right now.
Well, my understanding of the venue tax is it's required to be used on linear parks. So within the general fund budget, the only park budget we could use it on would be basically the parks budget, so.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. And again, the rate limiting step is there's a limitation going to parks for even if the venue tax were more available for the general fund, we can't get to it at the present time because of limitations that you've presented. So it's.
I wouldn't recommend it, but.
No. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with that's what you said. I'm agreeing with that's what you said.
Okay.
I'm only saying that we're at the limit and we can't really get any more relief at this point in time from the venue tax if tax rates have to increase, or if we wanted to move ultimately money for fire trucks or whatever, type thing.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Tax rate, ready? Okay. So we actually received the worksheet from the county at 4:57 this afternoon. So I read through it. I didn't see anything that looked like an anomaly. The numbers look to be correct, but I'll still review it again tomorrow before I sign it and send it back. So this will be our tax rate presentation for fiscal year 2025, calendar year for taxes fiscal year 2025, 2026 fiscal year, sorry about that. So property tax is a key source of revenue for local governments across Texas. The Texas Municipal League reports that property tax revenue is the greatest contributor to the city's general fund for maintenance and operation and expenses. Property tax is the upper one. So here are the numbers that we received earlier this afternoon. The 2024 adopted tax rate, as you know, maintenance and operation was 0.436882. Debt service was 0.077500 for a tax rate of 0.514382. We're proposing that we have a maintenance and operation tax rate of 0.442000. Debt service is 0.088000. This will be using part of the debt service fund balance. And this will leave us with a tax rate of 0.53. If you note, the no new revenue rate is actually higher than the rate that we're proposing. Next slide, please.
This slide.
Oh, sorry. I was waiting to see if somebody wanted to ask me a question.
Okay, so between 2019 and 2024, the tax rate for the city of Universal City has declined by approximately 8.7 cents, from 0.6014 to 0.5144. The maintenance and operation portion decreased by 4.9. Interest and sinking decreased by 1153. I'm sorry, decreased from 1153 to 0.0775. This is partially attributed to the fact that we're trying to reduce that fund balance. For calendar year 2025, fiscal year 2026 budget for the city of Universal City, the tax rate projected is to increase slightly to 1.5 cents to 0.53000. Overall, the calendar year 2019 to 2025, the tax rate has not increased, the net increase is approximately 7.1 cents. This is equivalent to $1.4 million in loss of revenue. For every penny, it's $200,000 to the city. So next slide, please. Oops.
You and Rubal.
So how does property tax changes impact the city? For every penny, up or down, it's equivalent to approximately $200,000. So if we decrease the tax rate by 1 penny, it would be $200,000. If we increase it by 1 penny, it would be $200,000. It's pretty simple math. Next, please. Now, how does it affect a homeowner, or how is it impacted by that 1 cent change? 1 cent change for a $100,000 property is 83 cents a month, or an equivalent of $10 a year. So if you have a $300,000 home, you would increase by $49 cents a month, for an equivalent of $30 a year. So you can kind of see the difference here. You're paying if we go by the average value home here, which is $300,000, you're paying $2.49 more a month, or $30 more a year, for fire, police, parks, water, and all the other services that are provided by the city. Library, animal shelter, the splash pads. So that $2.49 or $30 a year affects the city by $200,000. know any other way to explain it except that for the services that are being provided, that small additional amount really isn't that great. But it does affect the city tremendously if we lose that penny. So bring the next slide, please. So just some items to consider for council. ARPA funds for supporting the police and fire mental health officers will be fully exhausted by the end of fiscal year 2025. The city's growth will drive increased demand for additional staffing. The consumer price index stands currently at 3%, which is in line with the fiscal year 2026 budget, the increase within the budget. The ad valorem tax rate, again, has decreased by approximately 7% from 2019, which again is equivalent to $1.4 million in revenue to the city. For every 1 penny reduction in the property tax, it takes at least 1 year for the city to recover that lost revenue, assuming that the property tax values stay stable. And that's all I have.
Any questions?
Mr. Rubal.
Thank you. Obviously, in identifying the rate that's needed, essentially there are two sides. That's revenue into the general fund and expenditures. There are a couple elephants in the room with regard to expenditures and some low-hanging fruit. The one low-hanging fruit that I brought up before this council with regard to the fact that there's legal documentation that states essentially that $80,000 in billboard fund is essentially targeted to the city. The city owns the billboard. The city owns the revenue generated by it, but yet it's going to the golf course. And so that's a little low-hanging fruit. Again, that's just $80,000. But I point out again that $80,000 times 10 is $800,000. And I think we should recoup that. Number two, whenever we talk about taxes, essentially, don't forget we're taking away from the community this $200,000 in aggregate for every penny. So basically, our residents and our businesses have $200,000 less by your numbers for penny change.
No, penny change, forgive me. You're saying that the citizens receive $200,000 less of services from the city. Is that what you're saying?
Hang on, we'll get the services in a second.
Okay.
The aggregate, though, that's lost by the residents is $200,000 per penny, right? I mean,
I don't completely understand, sir. I'm sorry. Could you restate it differently, maybe?
Well, I'll just use your numbers. 1 cent change is $200,000.
To the city, yes, sir, that's correct.
So to the city,
yes, sir.
It's also essentially $200,000 from the residents.
Which is what she showed on
Services.
this slide.
Sorry.
Okay, so what you're saying is that $200,000 less revenue to the city affects the citizens by that amount? Is that what I'm understanding?
All I'm saying is that is lost from the residents to do what they need to do, correct?
No, sir.
No. So where does it go? If it's going out of the resident's pocket to the city?
A resident with a $500,000 home would pay $50 additional a year.
Again, you presented us with an aggregate number, $200,000, and that's tremendously impressive.
For every penny that the city, sir, if you allow me to speak for just a second. So for every penny that we reduce or raise the city's property tax, okay, that's $200,000 that the city would not have coming in or would have coming in either way. Now, to a citizen, it would mean that they would pay, if they have a $300,000 home, they would pay $2.50 more a month. So I guess I don't understand your analogy.
I'm tracking.
Okay.
I'm simply saying with your numbers, there's $200,000 from the residents that are going to the city.
Okay.
So essentially, that's an aggregate loss per penny of taxes of $200,000 from the community. So far, so good. Makes sense, right? Okay, basically, the big elephant in the room is salaries. What is the total salary for our budget? I mean, it's the biggest part of the budget, right?
Yes, sir, yes.
Right. So you don't have to give me the numbers right now, but just follow me through a little bit. So essentially, within that salary, all right.
Can you turn this into a statement, because it's becoming kind of a lecture.
Well, basically, it's explaining the fact that we have options tonight in order to address the increase in salary two ways. One, if we continue with the 2.5% step increase, that I'm not going to challenge. However, the other side of that is the COLAs. COLAs are not granted by every municipality, and basically a COLA rate is, my Bureau of Labor and Statistics is actually about 2.5 to 2.7%. But that being said, essentially, is the COLA an item that can be addressed in order to, you said 3%, perhaps it could be 2%. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, does.
Okay.
And that would be a discussion for council to have. They would have to make that decision. And, but our COLA is in line with other cities within this area. And it actually is not very high. We've made adjustments within the COLA to be sure that departments that needed to have a higher increase to be more competitive with the area. We've made adjustments to be sure that their COLA is a little bit higher than the other departments.
So this, to make clear, essentially the cost of living increase is not the same for all employees at this point in this proposal.
No, sorry, it's in order to address the shortfall in some of the departments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, from council, we can essentially say we can decrease the COLA a little bit and perhaps even distribute it evenly through all employees.
We don't want to distribute it evenly, sir, because then the departments that need the increase wouldn't get it. That's what we've done in the past. In the past, the city has had a COLA or whatever you want to call it, of 2, 3, 4, 5% across the board, whatever. And unfortunately, not all positions are being paid at a rate that is comparable to cities around us. So in order to meet that, we had to adjust it a little bit.
Cost of living increase versus compensation, adequate compensation for salary seem to be two different things.
But no, so it's not. The compensation stays the same. For instance, let's say I make $45 an hour and I get an increase of $1, so I'm making $46 an hour. The COLA increase stays with me next fiscal year, and it stays with me in the future as well. My rate changes at that point to the new rate. So I guess maybe it's just a difference in views, but
the last part of the elephant is essentially salary levels in the city. If we go to the mayor's friends that are 1-star generals, 2-star generals, 3-star generals, 4-star generals, the maximum salary of a 4-star general is the same as a 2-star general, and that's $221,000.
But that's not why I'm not in the military.
Hang on. My point is, it's fixed, it's frozen, even though.
Well, we're talking apples and tacos, so there's no comparison within that one. Let's bring it in with.
Okay.
I guess what is your suggestion?
Can we not fix top salary rates at a level below $250,000 to help offset the general budget.
So you and the council were.
May I finish, please? And I'll yield.
But you did ask her a question, Mr. Rubal, and if you don't allow her to answer, then you should go ahead and hold
Okay, you're right. I did say can you.
Sorry.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry.
So council has the ability to do whatever they want to do, so. If council decides that they want me to address the salaries and look at it again, I can. If council decides that they want to take something out of the budget, I can do that as well. But that's a council discussion, that's not something that I would be involved with. I just would need your direction on what you want me to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Shelby? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be clear, 1 penny is, again, how much? 200,000?
200,000.
Out of the city budget. But 1 penny is $2.49 a month to $30 a year for $300,000 home.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But the citizens are not carrying the burden of the entire $200,000 that is coming from that 1 cent increase, because we have businesses that own buildings and property that are also following that tax rate. So in essence, the people who have the large pieces of property that are millions of dollars are paying far more in taxes for that 1 penny increase than our citizens are. So I want to be very clear. Yes, I would love to pay less taxes. I've had this conversation before. I also don't want to kick the can down the road, because the farther we kick it down the road, the more it costs to fix it. So if I got to pay an extra $2.50 or whatever it comes out to for my property, I'll pay it. It's $2.50 a month. I'll have half of a coffee less a month. I know I'm not everybody in the city, but I also know that there's property in the city that's far less than $300,000 in value. So that number drops substantially. But we are a community. We're a community, and our money that we're paying in taxes goes back to the community that we live in that provides services for us. It doesn't go into a corporation and get sent out into the ether. The vast majority of it pays for the people that work here, the services that are provided. If we want to pay bottom dollar for people to work here, we're going to end up with less people working for us. Our quality of people that work for the city is going to go down. We don't need to be paying Merrill Lynch prices. There's got to be somewhere in the middle, but we don't want to be paying Taco Bell. Okay, I don't want to live in a Taco Bell city. So I'm willing to spend a little bit of money to make sure that we are properly paying our fire, police, public safety, public works, and then all the other staff in the city at an appropriate rate. And a COLA, I'd love to see a COLA in my job. I don't get a COLA. I think that's great that you guys get that. I have to go ask for it. And I think it's great because working for a city is a lot different from working in the private sector. And we need to take that into account. So I understand the argument, but saying that $200,000 is coming out of the city, the citizens as an aggregate, is a false statement, because that $200,000 gets spread across the business owners as well as the citizens that live in the city. Thank you.
Mr. Goolsby.
Thanks, sir. So I've got some notes, so bear with me. So you're saying that your proposed tax rate of 0.53 is actually less than the no new revenue rate.
Yes, sir.
And years past, we have said, hey, how about this no new revenue, right? That's kind of what we pushed.
Pretty much what you said, right, yes.
And then, so you kind of did that, and then you just rounded it off with a whole bunch of zeros. So you just made my day. Right? So,
That's pretty good.
I love this. So then, I agree with a lot of things that Mr. Shelby said, except I want to make sure that our police are paid appropriately, and then make sure the fire is paid appropriately.
Whoa.
On the pay, I believe that we need to make sure that we are keeping up with the Joneses. I don't want to be above the Joneses. I don't want to be below the Joneses. I want to be right in there, because I don't want our police officers, our public works guys, even our firefighters to go to one of the local other communities around us because of the pay. I don't want that. My next one is frozen for seniors. The tax rate is frozen for seniors.
I didn't address it.
Is that correct? So they will, my seniors won't see this go up. So the people that are on a fixed income are typically not going to see this.
Right, but any person over 65 will not see no change in their taxes.
Okay. the tax
The ones
rate.
that will see it will be persons under 65 and business owners.
Okay. That's right. Okay, and my last one is, I would like to address Mr. Rubal's caps as a business owner. I just can't get behind somebody capping my salary, and I wouldn't do that to the people in here. I think, again, we have to make sure that we have the people that are doing the job and pay them whatever that word is. Commensurate with those around us and what their value is as well. Because if, let's say, one of our local communities around us has a real cruddy, Ms. Turner, I'm going to throw it to you. You're the head dog around here. If one of our neighboring cities has a cruddy city manager and they're not paid a lot, I really don't want to be comparing you to that because you're or some of them. So I did cover the police then fire. Okay, good. Just making sure.
I'd like to amend Public Works, Fire, and Police.
Oh,
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
I will have to add the Public Works in there because over the last couple of weeks, I have had quite a few citizens, and they are extremely happy with our Public Works Department, just pass the word along. And so I have to agree with that.
Mr. Vaughan has a question.
Mr. Bob.
So you, on the timeline, if you think about you said you got the worksheet this afternoon, right? The worksheet from the county. So in the budget that was in our packet, does it come out to the same revenue figures? Or do you think?
No, it comes out really close.
Okay. I guess from the cover page on the budget, it says that we're going to be asking for more revenue, right? And so some of that's coming from new.
1.5 cents, yes.
Yeah, so it's about 200 and something thousand, and about, just rough numbers, about half is coming from new properties and half is coming from residents. Yeah, so it may be 150,000-ish if I take that cover page is coming from
New revenue.
asking for more revenue from the taxpayers.
No.
That's
Well, it's going to be coming from revenue that wasn't for structures that weren't taxed the prior year.
That's what he said.
yeah. There's
Oh, sorry.
two, yeah.
Yes,
So it's like half and half, like half
Yes.
new, half
Right.
existing. It's my personal preference. I'd like to find a way to pay for that without having to increase that 150-ish. I think we have some options with the venue tax. I think we have some options with the fire truck funding of deferring that a little bit, maybe doing a loan down the road. But personally, would like to see that worked out so that we don't have to ask for more money. I think it's hard to say what we're going to look at spending on the golf course before trying to work that out first. So that's just my feedback.
Can I address the fire truck real quick?
Sure.
Right now, we have approximately $1.8 million. That covers one of the vehicles. If we have the $550,000 in the next 2 years, we'll be short approximately $400,000, which at that point we could use fund balance for. There are some options available to council. If we wanted to, if you wanted to move a small portion of the venue tax, you could. There's the fire truck that we could reduce it mild or small amount, for instance. And then at the end of the fiscal year, if there is that surplus, then move that money. Does that make sense?
Right, like if you get a grant, then you don't move the venue tax or something like that.
Something like that, yes, so those are options for council to discuss.
As you requested last year, I'm more interested in you guys maybe coming up with a solution if you decide to take that suggestion. But that's my feedback, is to try to find that $155,000 from somewhere else rather than the
From a
taxpayers.
staff perspective, we recognize that the $550,000 that we're asking you to set aside for the fire truck is the elephant in the room, right? It's one of the biggest expenditures that we have. And so, yes, you could reduce that amount that you're saving. As you said, kick the can down the road. But it's going to come to a point in 2027 when we have 2 fire trucks arriving, and we have to have the cash for both of them. So you're going to have to either come up with that money now and set it aside, or you're gonna have to come up with a bigger amount later, which you can do through two options. You can borrow from yourself, which would be from the fund balance, and then put the cash in the next few years to replace the fund balance, because that's what your fund balance policy says. Or you have the option of going out and doing a conventional loan for about, no?
Well, you could, yes.
Yeah, you could, she's shaking her head because she doesn't like the idea of it. You could do a conventional loan, I don't know what the interest rate would be on that. And so it would be somewhere, we'd be borrowing between 900,000 and $1 million, maybe. 900,000 to 1.4. But then you're paying interest, which is still, you know, a tax.
It's counterproductive.
It's counterproductive, but it's still being paid by the residents. So that is your option if you want to look at the fire truck.
I personally like the debt because you're smoothing it out over time. It's not a one-time hit, and you're paying for those trucks over the life of the trucks. So personally, I think it makes sense. But that's just my feedback. So it's up to you guys to decide how you want to proceed. So thank you, Nick.
Well, we as a group need to give them direction on what to come back with 3 options, I'm assuming. But we need to identify exactly what we want the staff to concentrate on for final proposal.
I move that we have the staff shoot for the proposed tax rate 2025, 0.08880, excuse me, 0.088000, with a total tax rate of 0.50000.
Second.
0.53
or 0.5?
0.530000.
Again, we're not asking you to vote on
No,
anything,
just-
you're just providing us direction. Remember, come August 19th, I think is the date, you'll actually be having a public hearing, and then we'll do a record vote. And so I know you said second, I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that whenever you're only providing guidance.
We'll take this as a consensus
Yeah.
directions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't think there is a consensus.
Okay. Those that are in favor of that consensus, raise your right hand. 1, 2,
Options or?
just, there's 3 people, 4 people right there that said
Excuse me, Mayor.
consensus.
Basically, what we need to know is what are we going to advertise as our rate? If council doesn't like the 0.530000, I just need to know what I have to publish.
I understand. That's what I'm trying to determine right now. I've got 4 people that said they agree with that. And I'm assuming 2 people that do not.
So, Mayor, if you want to be official about it, because it is under an action item, if somebody wants to make a motion and take a vote, that way it's very clear whether or not you have a consensus, and that'll probably provide a little more concrete direction to Ms. Green.
I believe I did move.
You did.
We did have a second.
And we have a second.
So, any other discussion? Yeah, let's call for a vote.
Discussion.
Mr. Rubal?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend this discussion to include a lower tax rate with the options that the staff could provide, the same tax rate that we have currently. So just a second option for consideration.
Okay, so again, any penny over or under is $200,000. So I'll leave that to council to decide if they want to go to 0.52 or 0.53 or 0.54. Our proposed rate is 0.53. That's what we need to cover the current budget.
Since we're discussing, we're giving you guidance on what to aim at. We still have to do a final vote on this. So there's still a chance that this can change.
Yes.
We're just saying that this, what my motion, the purpose of my motion is to say, for now, to get the process started, aim at that number. And if the council votes in majority for that, great. If it doesn't, then we'll do a motion for another alternative. But regardless, we're going to set the rate down the road permanently. This is a guidance vote.
There's no second for your proposal, so with that being said, call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby? Councilmember Rubal? Councilmember Vaughan?
No.
Motion carried.
Thank you for the presentation. I know there's a lot of hard work went into that one, and over the last few months. Finish that one off, and we'll go to item C, ordinance 525Y 2025 Municipal Solid Waste Annual CPI Adjustment.
Thank you, sir. As I said in the cover sheet, this is actually built into the contract that we have. So the reason we're voting on it is we need to get it into our municipal code so that when people are looking at our code of ordinances and we're charging the fee, it's been duly authorized by city council.
Call for a motion?
Move for approval?
Any discussion? Yes.
Quick question. At what point can we bid this out, or when would be the appropriate time? Because it is next summer, right?
Yeah, thank you. I was actually going to mention that after the vote. So the contract with Waste Management is up in July of 2026. Sorry, I'm looking at the calendar in my head. And so we have contacted a firm that does RFPs just for waste services. And so as a staff, we'll start having a conversation with them to determine their process and when we need to actually issue the RFP.
And is it my understanding too that we can notify Waste Management at any time that we don't want to auto renew? Is that
So we
something
don't
that?
have an auto renew clause in our contract. We have where council can authorize additional years. I think it's 1 year or 2 year, but it doesn't automatically renew.
Okay, so there's no shot clock. If we fail and we're gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, oh crap, we didn't tell them, so we're locked in for another 10 years.
Oh, trust me, they already know that we're going out for an RFP and that their contract is up. So they'll have to go through the bid process like everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby? Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item D, ordinance 670, 2025, designation of Reunion District Reinvestment Zone 1.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we had the public hearing, and so in order to enact it, this is the ordinance that would create that particular, well, they have to have the naming specific, so it'd be the Reunion District Reinvestment Zone number 1 per state law, and this would require 2 readings.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Todd.
That was really close.
Any discussion? Call for the vote. Fast.
Mr. It would be good, I think, for council perhaps in a separate session that's scheduled, whatever, to identify the definition of abatement in various areas, these 2 designated areas. So an abatement will be a very hot issue with the residents. I think we should together understand what it means for future councils.
Yes.
I think what Councilmember Rubal is saying is that there's going to be a lot of questions as to what is this abatement? Oh my gosh, you brought in, X, Y, and Z, and you're going to let them just never pay taxes. I think that's what he's trying to nip by having that discussion.
Right. So by reenacting the reinvestment zone, you're just basically saying that you're open for consideration. What it's going to mean and how it's going to play out is not going to occur until somebody actually submits an application to you. At that time, when you get the application, you will decide, oh, it's this type of business, they're asking for this, we're willing to do this, you negotiate it with them. And at that time, you'll have the understanding of how it's going to impact future council decisions or future taxes in the city.
she said last
And
night.
I want to remind you of one thing, specifically with the reunion project. Remember that they're operating under a PUD, right? They have a plan. There's only certain types of businesses that they can get in there. And so if they come and they're wanting to get a tax abatement for a business in the reinvestment zone that's not even in the PUD, well, you're not going to give them anything because you're not even going to allow that business in. So you have to keep all of that into consideration. And, you know, maybe you get, I don't know, a Microsoft office with 300 workers. Maybe for that you might consider abatement. Maybe you do it for 5 years, maybe you do it for 7 years. Maybe they want 100%, you're only willing to do 50. That's the council's negotiation that you'll have with every business as they come in.
With specific regard to the reunion project, it's going to be a great investment as far as finances. However, is it not true that as soon as there's an official sale of the property, that the reunion developer can then essentially sell properties for the remaining development? So he loses control. There's no one person. That means that by definition then is that the reunion project, reunion abatement becomes a little more fuzzy.
No. For the reunion partners who are creating the reunion development to get a tax abatement, they would have to submit their own application. That application applies only to the land that they own. If they own 7 parcels and we close on December 20th, I'll use my birthday, just so everybody knows. If they own 7 parcels and then which they buy from us at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they sell 5 of them. The 5 that they are sold does not fall under their abatement criteria. It's only property under their direct ownership. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes. So it might be for 43 acres initially, but if they turn around and they sell that property, it's not theirs. The abatement goes away on that property. The abatement does not travel from one owner to the next.
And call for the vote.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Item E, ordinance 671, 2025, designation, Aviation District Reinvestment Zone 1.
Move for approval.
Second.
You gotta be.
I was trying not to get like this group.
Any discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Vaughan?
This is clearly very, very different. It's not a centrally developed plot or zone. And therefore, it's a harder case for an abatement for that zone.
How so?
Because it's individual developments.
I don't understand the issue.
Don't we choose who, yes, no, property?
Correct. It's the same process. I think what he's saying in the reunion, larger tract of lands, initially just one owner. Now we're looking at the reunion. I don't know, Michael, what do we have, 73 property owners down there? Something like that, something ridiculous like that. But if a developer comes in and they buy, let's say, 7 lots in there, and they want to put in, you know, a strip mall or a shopping center or something in there, they may want to ask for an abatement on the taxes because they're making a significant property improvement. The council still has the ability to say yes, no, or maybe. So it's just you're dealing with more people, but remember, you're not dealing with the residential end of it. You're really Mr. Rubal, you talked about the alley that we have in there. It really has more application to that than it does to the entire district. But you don't want to take out the availability that your commercial development can push out into the residential area if somebody is savvy enough to gather up properties to put in a commercial development. And I would imagine because the lots are smaller and the buildings are smaller, that, the capital improvement is going to be less. If it's less capital improvement, we're going to assume you're going to give them less abatement than you would if it was in the reunion, because now we're talking very large investments, and so they would probably have a different kind of abatement program than somebody in the aviation district. Remember, you're crafting it for each individual one based on their application and the amount of money that they spend, the investment they spend, and the employment that they have, and the years that you give the abatement and the amount. It can vary.
Mr. Goolsby.
So I'm going to agree with what he said. It's not that the process is more difficult, it's just that because I'll have 74 possible processes, that's more difficult. That's just the time spent on it. But so my question is can they double dip? Can they go to EDC and come for tax abatement?
Well, Mr. Rubal and I had this discussion the other day. It is in council's wherewithal to know if they obviously submitted to the EDC and the EDC for a tax abatement. Let's say in the aviation district, somebody comes in and their investment is $300,000 and they want, you figure out what the tax, well, we know what the taxes are. Christine told us just a few minutes ago. Yeah, so what you could do is you could say, really this is not worth abating taxes for, and then direct them to the EDC for some kind of financial assistance or incentive in order for them to build their building. So you can bounce them from the abatement back to the EDC.
I'm just trying to figure out, because there's a property across from Walmart that really might be a
I don't know, you have to be born on December 20th to make that.
Oh, okay. Mr.
Rubal.
Thank you again, Mr.
So we would highly discourage double dipping unless it was for some type of targeted industry or product or service that we were really looking for in Universal City. I mean, it would have to be super unique to do a double dip. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Essentially, I find myself agreeing again with Mr. Goolsby. And in that, basically, it does apply to business. It does apply to a lot of businesses. It can be a very useful tool, but there's consideration of how much EDC is spending in the aviation industry at the present time for the product that's going to be delivered eventually. I know it gives more flexibility, but what it does do from the date the agreement is signed is essentially reduces that 1 cent tax for revenue, whatever Christine will provide for us, that will ultimately equal the $200,000 or more that the taxpayers will have to keep paying while the development happens. In the case of our reunion project, I understand the kind of a bind that happened there, not necessarily because of their fault. That's a unique thing. And it's important, I think, to understand that abatements mean that the taxpayer during that abatement period is still paying the higher tax rate at $200,000 per 1 cent of ad valorem tax. So that's all. It's a hard sell for the taxpayers.
I understand, but you have to consider that when you're doing an abatement, you don't have to do it at 100%. You can lower it so that it does not have an impact on the overall tax, right? That is one of the things that you would be taking into consideration when somebody submits an application. Or we might say, yeah, we'll give you $100,000 for the first year, but then after that, it's 50% for 3 years, and then you're done. Then you pay full 100%.
And again, I agree, abatements can be an extremely useful tool, and particularly if you know the footprint, you know that it is, Google or whatever type thing, you know the number of jobs that industry is bringing in. That's a good deal. But general development becomes a little easier, and I think the fact that the council will be given flexibility in whatever the vote on this is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good, let's go for the vote. Yeah, I'm sorry, you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, I felt like this conversation was talking about apples when we're voting on oranges.
I thought we were on tacos. But let's go for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
No.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Let's go. Item F, Ordinance 308D, 2025, amending Chapter 3-4, Traffic of the Code of Ordinance, updating stop intersections.
So we have new streets in the
Know what
city
that
because
means?
we have a new subdivision. So to get the appropriate work for the police department and the public works department, we need to approve these stop signs.
Motion to approve.
A second?
Adjournment time, come on.
Second.
Oh, wait.
Second. You said motion to approve.
Yeah, but you got this, like, you want.
Yeah, I don't want 3 more stop signs, but Second. 3?
One of these is not going in
Can
front
we
of
get
the
one and
mayor's
a half?
house, is it? Any discussion?
Mr. Coursing down those streets, I find those signs are already installed, so I'm not sure what this book is about. That's
This
not-
makes them legal.
You're exactly right, they have to be in
They
the
can't-
ordinance to be legal.
So if you got 5 minutes, you can go blow all the stop signs and not get a
Johnny's out there right now.
Wait.
It's like I've been here before.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
1.5, not 3.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Approved. Bid acceptance for CDBG Flintstone Drive street improvements. Long time coming.
Yes, Mayor, Council, what we have before you is staff recommendation for approval of the low base bid in the amount of $786,209.62 to D&D contractors for the Flintstone street improvements. That will include a grant award of $406,000.
You're sold them on it.
Motion to approve.
Second. Discussion? Yes.
Well done on the very tight bids for the most part. And then that different, I mean, that's incredible. That's great. And it's so close to the engineer's estimate. That's just impressive. So well done all the way around.
And thank you for the Commissioner's Court for the assistance in getting that to you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Bid acceptance for the Flintstone Waterline project.
Mayor, Council, we're asking for approval of the waterline improvements for the very same street of Flintstone. The low bid came in at $281,650 to Sorex LLC in the amount of $281,650. We are recommending approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Any second?
Second.
Yeah, you said.
No, I said second. Mayor Pro Tem was second. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So do you see any frustration on your part between having 2 different contractors, one doing working in the same spot, trying to overlay this? It's a he said type situation.
Yeah, one contractor will be mobilized first before the other one mobilizes,
So they won't be over each other's. Okay, excellent, thank you.
Yes, sir. Sorry, and because they're one after another, do you worry about any, I don't know, cross-contamination or like one doing damage to some of the others' work?
No, the water line, the way we have it designed, they'll have to follow what some of the areas we won't do full fulfilled, normally we do full fulfill because we got the street torn up. So if we weren't tearing it up, we'd have full fulfill. But no, the way we got it designed, it's gonna follow suit just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Call for the vote? I'm sorry, to the finger.
A quick question, Randy, and that is, are these sewer lines, they're in the center of the street?
This is water lines, we're doing
Water lines, okay, thank you, Mr.
Call for the vote?
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Approved. Item I, Cibolo Crossing Unit 2 final acceptance.
Thank you, sir. When subdivisions are built, the developer submits plans, the city approves them, the developer puts in the improvements. We inspect them, we give them a preliminary acceptance. Then for 1 year, it sits there. We go back, we do a final inspection to make sure everything is working the way it should be. And so this is the final acceptance of all of the public improvements for Cibolo Crossing Unit 2. And those would be water, sewer, streets, fire hydrants, and things of that nature. It's everything except sidewalks.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion? Brian?
Does that include drainage in those properties?
Yes, sir.
Then the follow-up question is, has that 20-foot retaining wall in the newer section, just below where the new stop signs are, type thing, been fixed? The base was totally eroded in the heavy rain. And also, essentially, it seems like there was a fill-in of the natural drainage course on those properties.
So you were talking about the wrong unit, the unit 2 you're approving tonight? That project's not in there.
I thought that was part of Unit 2.
That's in Unit 3.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
But it hasn't fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We've received some comments from the residents about trash. Was there any review to see if they've cleaned up trash in these areas before final acceptance, or?
So it's kind of hard to say the trash is in Unit 2 because it could be the trash that's flowing from Unit 3, which is also under construction. But the Development Services Department speaks with them quite often about trash. It's hilly and the wind blows, and so they all have containers, and sometimes when we have high winds, that they have been very good when we tell them to go pick up the trash, that they circle through and pick up trash.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call for the vote?
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Approved. It is a 9:12, and we're going to move into executive session. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551072 regarding purchase, exchange, and value of real property. So this concerns Resolution 980B 2025, resolution of the City of Universal City authorized purchase of real property located at 104 East Lindbergh, Universal City by the Universal City Economic Development Corporation for projects to promote new and expanded business development. Now closed. Go into executive session. We will be back shortly. Our long or modern.
I think that's one of 5 stop signs I'll let you know. Oh, that's great. All my
You
family's up
recognize I
north.
need a ride, correct?
I do recognize that your husband is no longer around.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
I
you.
won't make you.
Wait, how far do you need to go? Do you want to ride in the
I want to ride in the Shelby with Shelby.
Or do you want to go hunting for?
Well, I mean, here, I'm just saying, like,
What about
if,
some street signs?
if Lori's giving you a ride and you're going through an area where the speed limit is somewhere
Would
between
you
20 to
stop?
25 miles per hour, you may not make it home.
9:31, we're reconvening back to the regular meeting.
You are a problem.
And
You asked me.
executive session has ended. So,
Oh, where's the
we need, is there action being taken with the resolution of the City of Universal City authorizing the purchase of the real property located at 104 East Lindbergh, Universal City, Texas, by the Universal City Economic Development Corporations for projects to promote new and expanded business development. Call for a motion.
Move to approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby,
Aye.
Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
No.
Motion carried.
Ladies and gentlemen, adjourned. 9:36. Excuse me, 9:33.
Oh, Maribel, at least you're leaving our laugh.
Is it?
Yeah.